What is a file in general? Generally, in computer file is the basic unit of computer storage or computer memory. What is a text file? Text file is nothing but here the informations are stored in lines, character by character or in a series of characters. Directory is nothing but a place or it is the structure of the file system where the files or subdirectory can be created or stored. So it is a single directory, may or may not have multiple files. Dear students, welcome to B.Ca classes. I am Ravi Kumar KR, lecturer in computer science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Students, let us start our session with the chapter File System. In this session, we are going to talk about file attributes, types of files, directory structure, file system structure, and free space management. These are the topics to be covered in this session. So first let us see what is a file system. So first of all, you know the definition of file. See, what is a file in general? Generally, in computer file is the basic unit of computer storage or computer memory. So everything in computer memory we are going to store in the form of a file. So what is a file? It is a collection of corrected information which is recorded on secondary or non-volatile storage like magnetic disk, optical disk, and tapes. And it is a method of data collection that is used as a medium for giving input and receiving output from that particular program. So what is a file in general? It is a collection of information and the informations are stored on secondary memory devices like a disk or optical disk, magnetic tapes, and so on. And it is a medium of giving input and receiving output from that particular program. So in general, a file is a sequence of bits, bytes, or records whose meaning is defined by the file creator and the user. And here the user is the one who is going to create a file and he is the one to define the file information. So this is the definition of file, and the file system is nothing but the process or arrangement of files in computer memory in a definite order. So this is file system. Now let us see what are the properties of file system. So here files are stored on a disk or other storage devices, do not disappear when a user logs off. When you logged off from your system or from your account or when you shut down the system, so the files which are stored on the disk which will not disappear or will not be deleted until you delete yourself personally. Now files have names and associated with the access permission that permits the controlled sharing. As you know that how we are going to identify the files in computer with the file name, and also we know that it will be having so many attributes like extension name and size of the file and access permission, whether the particular file will be given access permission or read write permission and so on. That is called access permission. So it will be having all these properties or attributes. So files could be arranged or in a more complex structures to reflect the relationship between them. So it can be arranged in different method. So this is the properties of a file system. What is a file structure? Now we can see this is called one example for the file structure, and this is what we say this is the root. Under that we have so many directories, and these are all called directories. Under that we have different files. So this is called a directory structure. This is also you can see if you are using a computer, if you click on my computer or this PC icon, then you can see the particular drive or C drive, D drive, and so on. On left side of this, you can see a structure like this that is called a tree structure starting from the root, and this is called a file structure. So look at definition now. A file structure needs to be predefined format in such a way that an operating system understands. So file system has to be in a predefined format so that operating system can understand this. and it has an exclusively defined structure which is based on its type, and based on its types of file, so the structure can be generated or it will be stored in particular structure. So this is file structure. Now what are file types? Now there are three types of file structure basically. One is a text file. So what is a text file? It's a series of characters that is organized in lines. See, if I talk about a text file, what is a text file? Text file is nothing but here the informations are stored in lines, character by character, or in a series of characters. So it takes only text characters and it will not accept any other special characters. They are called as text file. And very good example is your notepad file. Notepad file is a pure text file. Next one is an object file. What is an object file? It is a series of bytes that is organized into blocks. And if we talk about object file and source file. Actually, what is a source file? This source file is nothing but the information in the form of human understandable form. And it is a series of functions and processes. So here, your source file contains nothing but, for example, it is a program. If I talk about a program, inside a program, it has so many routines or so many functions and processes and so on. They are called as source file. And when the source file is there, next one is object file. So this object file is nothing but the informations are stored in the form of bytes and in machine level language. So these are all different types of file structure or files. And what is a file type? It refers to ability of the operating system to differentiate various types of files. Means, so what is the file type? So it is the responsibility of an operating system to identify or differentiate the files based on the information or its types. So for example, text file or binary file, source file and object file and so on. So operating system like MS-DOS and Unix has the following type of file. So these are all the operating system or MS-DOS and Unix follow these type of file types. In the next slide, now let us see another types of files, the character special file. So it is a hardware file that reads or writes data character by character like mouse, printer and so on, other devices. So here character special file is nothing but it is a hardware file. It is going to read and write the information character by character through hardware devices. And here next one is ordinary file. Another ordinary file. These are files stores user information. This is for user information. It may be in the form of text or executable program, nothing but .exe files or database files. All these are ordinary files, nothing but user informations are stored in this type of files. And it allows user to perform operations like add, delete and modify. So these are all ordinary files. Next one is directory files. So here directory contains files and other related information about those files. It is basically a folder to hold and organize multiple files. So if we talk about in Windows operating system, what normally we use, there we use the word folder. So in operating system like MS-DOS, or we say it is a directory services or directory system. So a directory is a location or a place where we can store the files, and also we can store another subdirectory inside a directory. And this directory system, it contains the information about the particular file. Next, another type of files are called special files. These files are also called as device files. It represents physical devices like printer, disk, networks, flash drive, etc. So it is also another type of file. They are called as special files. Next we will see what are the different functions of a file, or what are the operations can be performed on file or with respect to file system. Here first one is create a file. This is one of the operation or the function. And if I want to create a file, what is the meaning of creating a file? I mean, you're going to find a space on the disk and make an entry in the directory or file system. So here in the previous slide, we know what is a directory. So it is a location where we can store file or directory in subdirectory and so on. So first of all, when you create a file, whenever you create a file, that operation is nothing but we are finding out some space in the computer memory for the information, a particular file to be stored, and that too in a particular directory. Now, write to a file, that is another information. Write to a file requires positioning within the file. So once the file has been created, it has to be, or data has to be written inside a file. For that, we need to positioning the cursor or the system at the particular file. Next, read from a file. One is writing onto a file. Next, one more operation or a function is read from a file. It involves positioning within the file. Next one is delete directory entry or regain disk space. So here another function is once the file has been created, that can also be deleted, and even directory can also be deleted, and so that we regain the disk space. Now reposition, move, read and write position. So this is called repositioning. Again, it is another function is to move, read, write position inside a file. These are all different functions or operations can be performed on files. Next one is file access method. So what is the meaning of file access method? See, so far we have learned now what is a file, how do we store the file in computer memory in the form of directory. Next procedure is we would like to access those files from the computer memory. That is the method of file access method. So it is a process that determines the way that files are accessed and read into the memory. So this is the concept of or reading the files from the computer memory and within the particular position. That is called file accessing. So generally a single access method is always supported by operating system. Only one method. Though so there are some other operating system which also supports multiple access methods. So file accessing is nothing but it is a process to determine, find out the location of the file, and you have to load it from the memory. And there are one method is a single access method, and also multiple access methods are available to access the files in file system. Now let us see different access methods. So here one is sequential access method, direct random access method, indexed sequential method. These are all different types of file access methods. Now let us see what is sequential access methods. So in this type, the file access method records are accessed in certain predefined sequence. Generally in sequential access method, so we have to read the file or we have to access the files one by one in the definite order, in the order which they have stored. So that is with the predefined sequence. In the sequential access method, information stored in the file is also processed on one by one. And as the file is accessed by one, and also be accessed by, the process can also take place one by one in the file. Most compiler access files using this access method. So here the sequential file access method is, here the files are stored in the directory system one after the another with a definite order. So all the information or the file has to be accessed in series or in one by one. Suppose I would like to access the file number 10, so I have to start accessing from file number 0, 1, 2, 3. After accessing the file number 9, then I have to access the file number 10. That is the meaning of sequential access method of accessing file. Next one is random access method. So here it is also called as direct random access method. And this method allows accessing the record directly. If I say directly, you need not to follow any of the series or any of the system as we have seen in sequential file access method. Here files are stored in a physical address or with respect to physical address of the computer memory or in particular location in a computer directory system. So here any information can be accessed directly or we can access any file without following any of the order. That is the meaning of random access method. And here each record has its own address on which can be directly accessed for reading and writing operation. So we can access the file directly without following any of the sequence. That is random access method of file accessing. Next concept is space allocation. So in operating system, files are always allocated a disk space. Obviously, so here the informations are stored in the form of files, and files are allocated a space in the memory. That is the meaning of file or space allocation to a particular file. And here there are three types of space allocation: linked allocation, indexed allocation, and contiguous allocation. Now, in contiguous allocation, in this method, every file uses a contiguous address space on the memory. And here, OS assign disk address in linear order. So, on this method, external fragmentation is the biggest issue. Here, the operating system assign a disk address in one definite order or in a linear order, and similarly in the same order. So, files are stored in the computer memory, or file space is allocated in the same manner. This is contiguous allocation. Next one is linked allocation. Here every file includes a list of links, and here every file includes list of links, and the directory contains a link or pointer in the first block of a file. Here directory is the one, it contains the link or pointer of a particular file as the first part of it. Within this method, there is no external fragmentation, and the file allocation method is used for sequential access files and is not ideal for direct access file system. So this is linked allocation, where each file has a link as a part of it, and directory also contains the link or pointer to a particular file location. This is linked allocation. Next one is indexed allocation. So here directory comprises the addresses of index blocks of a specific file. So here the concept here is every file, the directory will going to maintain a separate index of all the files in a separate directory. So here an index block is created having all the pointers of specific files. That's what I have told you just now. So here the directory itself is going to maintain a separate directory or a list. It consists index of all the specific files, and this index will be having the pointers of particular file. All files should have individual index blocks to store the address of disk space. So this is indexed space allocation. In the next slide, what are file directories? A single directory may or may not contain multiple files. You know what is a directory? Directory is nothing but a place, or it is the structure of the file system where the files or subdirectory can be created or stored. So it is a single directory, may or may not have multiple files. It can also have subdirectories inside the main directory. And once the directory has been created, inside that you can also have one more directory, and what normally we call in Windows a folder and subfolder. And information about file is maintained by directories. And this is, we know that all the information about a file will be stored in the directory system. See, when you are using Windows operating system, if you go to again this B.Ca or my computer icon, you will get the information about the hard disk like C drive, D drive, E drive, etc. On left hand side, you can find the tree structure. And if you observe any file in particular directory or in the folder of the computer system, it will be having all the details like the date of creation, author, access permission, size, and so on. So that is information about the file is maintained by the directories. In Windows, it is called folders. So this is called file directories. In the next slide, file directories, and the following informations is going to maintain a directory. As we know that name, it is name of the file displayed to the user. So the user identify the file by its name, that is called name of the file. or name of the directory. Next one is type. It is type of the directory. Type of the directory. Position means current, next, read write position in a directory. Location. Location on the device where the file header is stored. And size, number of bytes, blocks, and words in that particular file. And protection, nothing but access permission, either read, write, executable, or delete access permission to the particular file or a directory. And usage, time of creation, access, and modification. See, these are the common things. Generally, file directory is going to maintain all the information, and also we can see all the information in our computer system for a particular file or with respect to a particular file. In the next slide, we will see what are different file types and the name, extension name of the file. And here, suppose executable file, we say .exe. Now we know that file has two parts, or a file name has two parts. One is name of the file, next one is extension name. So we can make out the type of file by looking at the extension name of particular file. So accordingly, you say executable file is nothing but exe files, say .exe, .com, .bin, .none. So what is the meaning of function of this? Ready to run machine language program. So these are called exe files. Next is a object file. .obj is extension. It is a compiled program. If you compile any program, that is the source file. When you compile the source file, it's going to generate a object file that is in machine level language. So that is object file. Then source code, as I told you, it is the programs written in any of the high level language that is called source code. You can have different extension for this, .c, .html, .cpp, and so on. Next, batch file. So it's called a batch file. This is called .bat or .sh, that is called shell. So this is called a batch file, and here it is a series of commands to be executed. And text file .txt or .doc, the textual data documentation. And word processor, again, is a binary file. We can say .doc, .docs, .tx, and other different extensions of word processor or binary files. And next one is library files, .lib or .h. Header files are called library files. And this is called archive file. It is zip files, .tar. All these are zipped file. So related files grouped into one file, that is called, sometimes it's called compressed file. See, these are all different files, extension name, and functions of different files. Student, so far we have discussed about the concept file system in computer system with respect to operating system. We will continue our discussion in my next class. Thank you very much.